The night air was heavy and thick with fog. Emily stepped off the bus, her boots crunching against the frost-covered earth. The small town of Hollow Creek seemed deserted, its few scattered streetlights casting eerie, flickering glows down empty roads. Behind her, the bus rumbled off into the night, leaving only the unsettling silence of the town to greet her. The chill wasn't just from the cold. It was as if the air itself carried an unspoken dread, one she couldn't shake. Emily had come here to escape, or to get closure for the recent loss of her fiancé, heal her own shattered heart. But Hollow Creek, a place where her fiancé lived his whole childhood and had always spoken of, felt more like a trap than a sanctuary. Town's only hotel was a decaying structure at the end of a long, narrow road. Its windows were cracked, and the door creaked ominously as she pushed it open. Inside, the place smelled like dust and stale air, the walls lined with faded wallpaper that peeled like dead skin. An old man sat behind the counter, his beady eyes never leaving her as she approached.
"You're here for the Hollow Inn?"
He asked in a voice so low it seemed to echo around her. She nodded, trying to ignore the sense that the air grew colder with each step she took deeper into the hotel. The old man handed her a rusty key. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, he nodded toward the narrow staircase. Emily's room was located on the second floor, and as she made her way up the stairs, the faintest whispers began to slither into her ears, like voices carried on the wind. The sound was so soft that at first, she thought it was simply the wind or the building settling. But it persisted. Her room, when she entered, was bathed in an unnatural dim light. The curtains were drawn and the bed was unmade, as though someone had just risen from it. On the dresser, an old photograph stood in a cracked frame, an image of the very hotel she was staying in, but with a different name. Hollow Inn. Confused, Emily pulled the curtains back, but instead of the typical town view, there was only a wall of dense trees, like a vast, impenetrable forest. How had she missed it earlier? That night, as Emily lay in bed, unable to shake the unease creeping up her spine, the phone by her bed rang. She wasn't expecting a call, and there was no way for anyone to know she was here. She hesitated, then picked it up.
"Emily, can you hear me?"
A low voice whispered, almost like a breath. She froze. The voice was soft and familiar, but wrong. It sounded like Mark, but it couldn't be. He was gone, buried.
"Mark?"
She croaked, but there was no reply, only an unsettling silence. The call ended abruptly, and the room seemed to grow colder. The next morning, Emily went to explore the town, hoping to clear her head. But Hollow Creek felt like a place forgotten by time. There were no stores open, and the few people she saw only stared at her with eyes that held too many secrets. Back at the hotel, things grew stranger. She noticed small, unsettling details. An old book missing from the shelf, the floorboards creaking at odd hours, a shadow moving across the hallway when she was sure she was alone. That night, when Emily entered her room, she found that the photo of the hotel had changed. New people were now in the frame. Their faces were blurred, but the expression on their faces was unmistakably fearful. They were staring at something or someone just out of the frame. The whispers began again, louder this time and closer. Determined to find out what was happening, Emily ventured downstairs and spoke with the old man at the front desk. He only told her one thing.
"The Hollow and takes what it wants, and it never gives back."
As he spoke, the phone rang again. The same voice, but this time it was clearer, almost a hiss.
"Come to the woods! Come to the old well where I wait!"
Emily's heart raced as she realized that the hotel, the town, and the whispers were all part of something much darker. Late that night, unable to ignore the call any longer, Emily ventured into the forest. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches twisting into unnatural shapes. The path seemed to lead her deeper, her footsteps echoing in the silent, freezing air. Then, as she reached the heart of the forest, she stumbled upon a clearing. There, standing in the center, was a massive stone well, covered in ancient symbols. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw it. Etched into the stone was a name, Mark. The realization struck like a blow. Mark had never left Hollow Creek. He had been a part of it. Just another soul trapped by the curse of the Hollow Inn. As Emily reached out to touch the stone, the ground beneath her feet trembled. The whispers grew into screams, and the shadows seemed to stretch toward her.
You shouldn't have come.
The last thing Emily saw was the face of her fiancé, twisted and decayed, his eyes empty of life. The shadows engulfed her as the earth seemed to swallow her whole, and the whispers of the Hollow Inn claimed yet another soul. Back at the hotel, the old man smiled grimly as he watched a new photograph appear on the front desk, a new face in the crowd. It was Emily. The hotel remained silent, waiting for its next guest to arrive.